So, hello and welcome everyone. Uh, in last class, we was discussing about. Just give me a second. In the last class, we was discussing about the business cycle, and while explaining the business cycle, I was telling you about few key terms are going to be here, and apart from those key terms, I'm also going to incorporate Keynesian consumption function in this business cycle. Right. So, first of all, I have received a demand key full screen should be there. So, I hope right now you are getting the complete full screen. Okay. So, full screen is available right now. So, acha. We was discussing about what? We was discussing about business cycle, right? We was discussing about business cycle, and under the business cycle, I told you uh, there will be a kind of system under which production, employment, income, consumption, savings, price. All these are going to be the factor which we are going to study under the business cycle. Fine. And under that, I told you about a few key terms, like I explained you what is takeoff stage. What is takeoff stage? When your economic growth is very high for a particular time period, then we will call it as a takeoff phase, right? And after the takeoff phase, your economic growth will be there, but it is going to be normalized, right? However, when we talk about the business cycle, there is a kind of boom and recession. So, in the last class, I told you about this business cycle, and generally, what happens when production, employment, income, all these are things. This one. So, production, employment, income, consumption, all are increasing. Fine. So, economy was growing, but once you are going to reach towards the 100% employment like situation, under this kind of the 100% employment like situation, what will happen under this situation? There will be a rise in the price due to rise in the cost of production, and then there will be a kind of situation in the economy, people are not able to consume, right? And then there will be decrease in the demand followed by decrease in the production. And I told you there is a possibility of what? Once in the economy there is a high price rise and people are not able to consume, then in that case we can do two things: either we can decrease the production or we can decrease the wages. But because generally government do not allow to decrease the wages below the minimum wages, so that is why producer do not have any option and economy will go to the recessionary cycle. So this is what we did till then last class. So this business cycle, what I have explained you, this is the explanation given by the classical economist, right? The explanation given by the classical economist about the business cycle, right? So they said that ki economy will hit the recessionary cycle, and if this recession will continue for the longer duration, it will be known as economic economic depression. Recession, if recession is going to be remain continued, then it will be known as depression. So, what are the options to come out of the depression? Right. So, in order to come out of depression, what we have to do, we must decrease the wages. We must decrease the wages, This was an option given by what? This was an option given by the classical economist. In the last class, I told you there are some economists who emphasize on the production side, and their emphasis on the production side, and still that phenomena is partially correct. So we will call him as a classical economist. You can go to the previous class if you want to know, means if you have not attended that class and you don't know about the classical economist, there are some examples there. I have given their example. You can go through that. Right. So wages must be decreased. So classical economists, they emphasize free market. Free market because because according to them, supply can create its own demand. Supply can create its own demand. When I have given you the example of classical economist, I have mentioned one name, JB Say. Right. So this is the statement of JB Say. He said that supply can create its own demand. Supply have a capacity to create its own demand, and for that market should be free. So people ask them ki, okay, fine, but tell me the solution of this problem, because in the big business cycle economy is continuously going from recession to depression. So how we can come out of this economic recession and depression? So he suggested that if you will allow the free market, then economy will automatically go into the self correcting mode. So people ask him ki how free market is going to allow self-correcting mode of economy. Number one. Number two, what do you mean by free market? What do you mean by free market? He said that you should follow the policy of laissez-faire. Laissez-faire policy. Laissez-faire policy. So people said that earlier you were saying the free market. Now you are saying laissez-faire. We are not able to understand free market. Now you have introduced another complex term, laissez-faire. So he said that see, laissez-faire is a French term which means that laissez-faire, mind your own business. So here business is not used in context of the economy. Here mind your own business means it is being used in context of social context, right? Means you should do your work and left us to do our work. There is no need for you to interfere in our work. When he was using this you, it is mean government. So according to JB, government should follow the policy of laissez-faire, and under this, government should not interfere in, you can say, production, or in other words, you can say the market. So people said that how government is interfering. He said that government is fixing the wages. And the entire problem of the economic depression or recession, entire problem of recession or depression is because of what? Is because of this. And that is interfered by the government. So it should not be fixed. It should not be fixed. It should be what? Market dependent. Wages should be market dependent. And if wages are going to be market dependent, then it is automatically going to be in the self correcting mode. And he explained in this manner. Understand this diagram carefully. He said that see, production employment, income, savings, and consumption. So when production is going to increase, employment will increase, and employment will allow increase in the income, and this increase will allow increase in consumption and savings. This increase in the consumption will go for price rise. In last class, I explained in detail that is inflation and that is demand pulled inflation. Demand pulled inflation, right? So this price rise is nominal, and this nominal price rise will further increase the production, right? Why? Because there is a nominal rise and people's income is already increased and they are able to consume. So in order to fulfill those demands, producer, or you can in bracket you can understand in terms of supply, because sometimes it is mentioned as a supply. So producer is again going to increase the production, increase in the employment, increase in the income. So your economy is in the rising path. At a point of time when the 100% employment situation like will there, then wages are going to increase. Why? Because already all of the people are employed, and in order to hire extra people, you have to offer them extra wages. And this extra wages is going to increase the cost. Then this price rise is not going to be just because of demand, but because of cost also. So cost pushed inflation. I explained all these things in the last class. If you have missed, you can go through that. Just giving you a recap, right? So this price rise is going to be because of cost also, and this high price rise is going to prevent consumption. So demand is going to decrease, and if demand is going to decrease, then you have only two options. One option is what? One option is either you can go to decrease production or wages. So JB was saying that ki see, because government is fixing the wages. Government is fixing the wages, so we do not have option to decrease the wages. We do not have an option to decrease the wages. We have an option of only to decrease the production. And when we will decrease the production, employment, income, consumption, saving, all these things are going to decrease, and economy is going to enter from booming economy, which is showing 100% employment like situation. From boom, it will again go for recession, right? So if we want to take this economy out of recession, what we have to do, rather than production, we have to decrease the wages. So if government is going to allow laissez-faire, means government has given the free hand to producer class or production class, you can change the wages as per your requirement. Then rather than decreasing the production, wages are going to be decreased, and when the wages are going to be decreased, automatically this cost pushed inflation, this cost pushed inflation is going to decrease, right? Or it is going to be what? It is going to be removed from there. And if cost push inflation is going to be removed from there, the high prices are going to decrease. The high price, or you can say the high inflation. This high inflation, why high inflation? Because high inflation is because of these two factors, demand and cost. So cost factor is automatically going to decrease because wages are going to be decreased by whom? By the producer class. So in this case, automatically the consumption is again going to pick up. And if consumption is going to be pick up, again you can increase your production. So economy will again come to the normal, and from normal again the same cycle will start. Production will increase, employment, income, consumption will increase, and again economy will hit towards the 100% employment like situation, high inflation. And this high inflation again going to what? Again going to create a situation of what? Create a situation of decrease in consumption, and economy will move towards the recessionary cycle. And once the recessionary cycle will be there, then we have to apply the laissez-faire, and again economy will recover. So what they explained that this cycle is inevitable. This cycle is inevitable because everything is market dependent. If market will allow, situation will allow, we will increase the wages. But if the situation is going to what? Situation is going to not allow, then again what we have to do? Again we have to decrease the wages. So it's like blood sugar level in your body, right? So your blood sugar level, it can be automatically adjusted by your human body. But if body is not able to adjust it, then we have to use this some supplements like to decrease the sugar level or increase the sugar level, right? But you have to do this thing only when your body is not able to maintain that blood sugar level in your body, right? So what classical economists want to explain that economy have this self-correcting mode. They are able to self-correct it. There will be the boom, again there will be the recession. Boom, recession is a part of economic system, right? So it is a part of economic system. There is no need to interference by the government, right? So it will function in this manner. So according to classical economists, what it is inevitable. What is inevitable? Recession. Recession will hit the economy, but again economy will able to recover itself. So you cannot have any kind of what? You do not have any kind of the remedy so it can prevent the recession, right? Recession will be there, but that recession can be overcome, and this recession is never going to enter in the what? It is never going to be enter in the kind of depressionary cycle. So this is what they explained, and this explanation was dominated by what JB says theory, and that is why it is very famous. Says law of market. What says law of market? Says law of market is supply can create its own demand. That can be directly asked in the exam, right? Where they have mentioned the classical economist, right? If they have mentioned the classical economist, you have to keep this thing in your mind. It can be asked at any point of time. Any point of time they can ask this. So you must have to keep this thing in your mind, right? So, what JB say has explained, he has explained in the 19th century, right? And that theory worked very well in Europe and America throughout the 19th century and till then second decade of 20th century. Till then second decade of the 20th century, it was working very fine. Whenever the recession is going to hit in the European economies, they will more rigorously implement this laissez-faire and give more freedom to the producing unit, and they will come out of recession. So it was tried and tested theory for almost 100 to 120 years, right? So that is why again it is kind of among economists kind of okay, we agree it is a classical. So why they are known as classical? Because throughout the generations, so here I'm considering 10 year as a generation change. So theory was given in 1850s, right? And that theory worked without any issue, right? Without any issue for 70, 80 years. So that is why economists do agree that they are classical economists. And even today, if you will see, government is more and more concerned with what? GDP. Government each and every time more concerned with what? GDP. GDP is what? Gross domestic production. So still governments, even today, when the classical economist theory is not 100% considered as a right, but still today we do calculate the performance of the economy in terms of what? In terms of GDP. So GDP is directly what? Production, and we interchangeably use this production and supply thing, right? So still they are very relevant. They are not absolutely correct, but still they are relevant. Fine. So this is why they are classicals. Fine. So I just told you that this theory worked very well till then. What? Till then, 1920s. Why not after 1920s? Because after 1920s, few things happened, and these few things created a kind of situation where their theory got failed. Where their theory got failed. So, what was the scenario? In 1920s, right? In 1920s, US economy entered in the recessionary cycle around 1924. So US economy entered in the recessionary cycle. Means what? From the high employment stage, you entered in the recessionary cycle where because of high price rise, now demand, employment, consumption decrease. So it is a time to employ what? It is time to employ laissez-faire. So laissez-faire was rigorously implemented by US government, right? So they have given the complete freedom to the producer class so that they can implement and economy can come out of this recessionary cycle. But that didn't work. That didn't work, and US economy further moving towards what? Recession. And recession was deepening down. And by 1929, employment level, the employment level in US reached to historic low. Around 45% people in US, they are unemployed, right? Production was at very low level, right? And this long, or you can say the prolonged recession from 1924 to 1929, I told in the last class, if the recession will continue for long duration, we will call it as a depression. And that depression went for very long time, because generally people feel that what, once the recession depression situation will be appear, then definitely after some point of time what will happen, it will come out of recessionary cycle because of this. And one more thing you have heard now, hire and fire. You are fired, you are hired. So this hire and fire things will work where? Business cycle explained by classical economist. Why? Because during the boom time, there will be lot of hiring, and during the recessionary season, right? Recessionary season, what? Lot of firing will be also there. And in Indian economy, if you'll see the Indian economy, the tertiary sector, right? The tertiary sector, that is services sector, is closely close. Services sector, especially IT sector. IT sector is closely integrated with Western economies, right? Western economies like US and Europe, especially the US economy, right? So, if recession is going to hit US economy, the clear impact will be on the services sector in India. So, hiring will be stopped and firing will start in India also, especially in the IT sector, right? So, After 1991 reforms, Indian economy was open and integration was started with the European economies and especially US economy. And IT sector start booming and flourishing in India. Right. So everything was going very good. But when the US economy hit the recession in their country, and the impact was also seen in India, especially for those, I'll say, the kids who have taken CS and IT kind of stream while doing their engineering. Right. So at a point of time, people have seen that in India, people are doing their BTech and they are getting a kind of visa to go and have a job in US. Right. But after some point of time, people also have seen that they are going to office, but they don't know that they will come after completing their today's shift, or they will be given a letter, you are fired. Right, you are fired. So that havoc India has seen, especially the IT sector has seen, when US economy hit the recession. So if kind of question is going to be asked, ki hire and fire strategy or hire and fire kind of employment exist in which kind of the economic system, you can simply say that that is part of capitalist economy. Why? Because capitalist economy run by private production, whereas socialist economy, socialist economy, there will be no kind of boom and recession. There will be no boom and recession. Why? Because in socialist economy, production is controlled by whom? Government. And the government which is working, it is not working for the profit motive, it is working for fulfilling the requirements. So this is the general perception, right? Recession boom will occur only in the capitalist economy, not socialist economy. Okay. And those but sir, it is not like we should be more concerned about per capita income instead of GDP. Yes, obviously, we will discuss this thing in the national income chapter. And even not per capita income, we will focus on human development. Right. Even per capita income is kind of what? Per capita income. See, your country's GDP, suppose that it is 100. Right. Your country's GDP is 100 and you have 10 people in your country. Right. 10 people in your country. So per capita income PCI is going to be what? PCI is going to be 10. Right. So 100 is the income, 10 are the people, and PCI is what? PCI is 10. Per capita income is coming 10. But now, out of this 10 people, Ambani, Adani, plus common people of India, CPI, common people of India. So 1 plus 1 plus 8. So what we are seeing this income 100. So out of this 100 income, these Ambani and Adani are producing how much? This Ambani and Adani are producing 80 and rest of the India is producing 20. Right? So total income is 100. So you are able to see the per capita income. Per capita income is 10. But actually, out of that 10 per capita income, it is produced by whom? It is produced by Ambani and Adani. So even per capita income is not a right indicator. Right? Per capita income is not a right indicator. But still it is being used. So we will discuss there in detail, right? We will discuss these things in detail. Ki why, despite having a lot of flaws, when we are looking the development rather than growth, right? It's a vast topic. We will discuss there. No need to concern right now. I have just taken a reference. I have just taken the reference. Okay, but for your clarity, I have explained this thing. Even per capita income rather than GDP, GDP and per capita income are the same thing. No difference. Okay. So what I was explaining, hire and fire thing, it is a example of capitalist economy and socialist economy. Those people who think, those people who think China is a socialist economy, then you are very wrong, my dear. China just a political system. The political system of China is a what? Socialist, but their economy is what? Their economy is a private economy. Means there are the private people who are indulged in the production activity. But those private people, those private people, they are also part of their government system. You can understand in this manner. Just think, if India also have a China kind of the system, if India also have a Chinese kind of the system, then all these Ambani, Adani, right, all the business people of India, they are also part of communist party, communist party, right? So all these are going to be the member of communist party, and there is no BJP, Congress, or there will be one single party. And political class and business class, all of them, they come under the one ambit of what? They come under the one ambit of one political party, right? So if I'll get the time, I'll explain the Chinese structure. But as of right now, you have this thing in your mind that China at political level, have a communist kind of regime, but at economic level, they have same kind of the setup as a capitalist setup, right? They have big private companies, right? Even you have seen that two, three brands, OnePlus, another is Oppo, third is Vivo, right? There is only one company, that is Oppo, and these are only brands, Vivo and OnePlus, and the mother company is what? Only Oppo, right? So, but if you have not seen that thing in past, or you have studied this thing, so for us it is different company. All three are Chinese company, but all three Chinese company have a parent company as a Oppo. OnePlus is a product of Oppo, right? And Vivo is also product of Oppo. So all these companies are only one single company, and all these three company are Chinese company, right? When you will go further, who's the founder of Oppo and all these things, you will find the link with the Chinese Communist Party. Why countries are not very comfortable to allow Huawei, Chinese company, to establish their 5G network in India or some other countries? Right. The reason is very simple. Chinese company Huawei, it's look like a private company. It's look like a private company owned by the private people. Owned by the private people. But those private people at some point of time, they are part of Chinese army. Right. They were part of the Chinese army. So this is one of the concern, because all the data which is going to be used by this hardware under the 5G, that can be exploited by the Chinese government or Chinese army, right? So this is why the 5G issues like there, right? So what China appears and China, actually there is a difference. Okay, now come back to our point. So I was explaining you, in 1920s US economy was hit with the recession, and that recession got deeper by 1929. So 5 years of recession, and US people do call this what? US people do called it as a the Great Depression. US people called it as a the Great Depression. Great means for us great. Mahatma Gandhi was great. Subhash Chandra Bose was great. For American, great means what? Long. We call it as a long, they call it as a great. Right? So for them, great means not greatness. For them, greatness means long lasting. So that depression, 29 depression. Now the question is being asked to this classical economist who was pushing, who was pushing and saying that, classical economists saying that laissez-faire will solve all the problems. Laissez-faire will solve all the problems. Right. So laissez-faire is going to solve all the problems. They are all time they are emphasizing this thing. But now even pushing all laissez-faire kind of the thing, economy was not able to recover from what? Economy was not able to recover from this depression. Right. So why? Question arises why economy was not able to recover from this Great Depression, even deploying all these laissez-faire tactics. Anybody want to throw the light in this session? Why economy was not able to recover, even deploying the laissez-faire? Anyone who want to share his thoughts? Please comment. I'm waiting for your reply. Why our economy was not able to come out of recession and depression despite going for this laissez-faire? No one? Okay. If no one is going to explain, then who is going to explain? Not me. It is going to be explained by J.M. Keynes. Okay. Girja is saying that I do not have a clear idea on this. No issues. I have a clear idea, and you should focus here. You will also going to have the same clear idea. J.M. Keynes, he is one of the fieriest critic of classical economist, and especially he is a fieriest critic of Say's law of market. Say's law of market. So J.M. Keynes, he explained why economy was not able to recover from this Great Depression. Number one, he explained, and he also suggested the remedy, how economy can overcome from the recessions. But again, he also said that there is bound to go for recession. Economy will go and it is bound to go for recessionary cycle. But if economy is going to the recessionary cycle, there is a other way to come out of this thing rather than following the Say's law of market. It is not going to help, it is going to work. So all this thing means he diagnosed the problem and he provided the solution, right? And he presented all these things in his very famous book, General Theory of Employment, Interest, and Money. Most of the time it is known as General Theory of Employment, right? And it is considered as one of the best book for macroeconomics. What is macroeconomics? I'll come to this point. But right now we have to focus on what Keynes explained. Keynes said that okay, first let's go to that cycle, business cycle, and in the business cycle there is a production side, or in other words we can say supply side. Then it is employment, and from employment, what will be generated? Income, and from income, there is a consumption, and from consumption, price, then this thing, and here is savings, right? So he said that, see, why laissez-faire didn't work. Why laissez-faire didn't work? The reason is you thought that what means laissez-faire means what? Cut the wages will be cut, price will be decrease. Why? Because according to laissez-faire, wages are going to, if wages are going to be increased, it is responsible for cost pushed inflation. Wages are responsible for cost push inflation, and if wages will be cut, price will decrease. Right. Another thing, what laissez-faire and classical economists feel that all these savings will be go in investment. So for a classical economist, saving is equal to investment. All savings are equal to investment. Second, if income increases, consumption and saving both increases, and rate of increase of consumption is greater than rate of increase of savings. So this is the two fundamental thing on which classical economists believe that. So what classicals are saying that if your income will be of two parts, consumption and saving. So if your income will increase, consumption and saving both will increase. If income will increase, consumption and saving both will increase. Question is, which will increase in the faster rate? Consumption will increase in the faster rate or savings will increase in the faster rate? What do you think? Or do you agree with the classical economist? Income increases, consumption increases, savings increases. But question is, which is going to increase with the faster rate? Consumption is going to increase with the faster rate or savings is going to be increased with the faster rate? Anyone can answer? Consumption. Okay. Anyone else want to answer? No. Consumption will increase, savings will increase, but if you will see the rate of consumption, the rate of rise of the consumption will be less than rate of rise of savings. So according to Keynes, all these two assumptions of classical economists were wrong. It is not true. First of all, savings are not equal to investment. Second thing, if income increases, consumption and saving both increases, that is true. but the rate of increase of the consumption is not greater than rate of increase of savings. And to explain this thing, he introduced the concept of propensity of consumption. Propensity of consumption of or propensity to consume. Right, propensity to consume. And same thing, propensity to save. So what is it? What is it and how he proved this theory wrong of classical economists? Suppose that a person have the salary of 20,000 rupees, right? Out of this 20,000, he is spending 15,000 on consumption plus 5,000 on savings. And out of this 5,000, he is consuming consumption of apple, fruit, not Apple iPhone. Consumption of apple, when he's consuming means 15,000 he's spending on this consumption. He is consuming one apple on daily basis. Eat apple a day or whatever means keep the doctor away kind of thing. So he's applying this thing and he's eating one apple in a day. Right. Now his salary is increased from 20 to 25,000. Obviously his consumption is going to increase and savings is also going to increase. So he can increase his consumption from one apple to two apple in a day. Again, if his salary is going to increase, he'll start eating three apples in a day. But if his salary is going to increase to 1 lakh, right, from 20,000 to 1 lakh, is his apple consumption is also going to increase in the same manner? No. After a certain point of time, the propensity to consume is going to saturate of particular item. You can say that, sir, okay, he is eating apple right now, he can start eating avocado, he can start eating pineapple or other fruits also. Yes, but all these things which he is going to consume, right, fruits or any other good, for example, I given you the example of consumption good, consumer goods, lot of goods I have explained you, right? So the point is what? Even if he start using the multiple fruit, but if income is continuously going to increase, after all, overall consumption of fruits is going to be saturated. Consumption of any other thing is also going to be saturated because there is a limitation of consume, right? You can consume fruits for a day in a particular quantity. Beyond that, you cannot consume, right? So that income is going to be used for other consumptions. Again, go to other consumptions. Like you have only cooler at your home. You purchase the AC. You purchase AC 1, 2, 3. After that, the requirement of AC is also going to be over. So at a point of time, what will happen? Your propensity to consume is going to saturate, and then that most of the saving, most of the part of your income will start going to the savings, right? So in a business cycle where boom and recession, is there. So what you are thinking? You are thinking every time what? Every time employment will increase, income will increase, and with the same rate as earlier, consumption was increasing with the rate of 8%. It is again going to increase with the 8% rate. It is not true. It is not true. More part will be added into the savings, right? More part it is going to be added to the savings. So you are wrong when you are assuming consumption will increase with the higher rate. And because you are perceiving this thing, कि consumption will increase in the higher rate, accordingly, you are going to increase the production. right? Because you feel that it is going to increase with this rate. Which rate? Which is higher than rate of rise of the savings. But it is not true. I have proved that. So rate of consumption is what? Rate of consumption is less than rate of savings when income will increases. But what you are doing, you are increasing your production with this assumption. What assumption? Rate of consumption will be higher. So obviously your production activity is going in the wrong direction. Number one. Number two, regarding savings. Regarding savings and investment, what he said that saving is never equal to investments. Some of the savings will be in the form of cash, and especially when an economy is heading towards what? When an economy is heading towards from boom to recession, then saving, I said that saving sum is cash savings plus investments. So once economy will move towards what? Boom to recessionary cycle. The cash savings is automatically going to increase. Automatically going to increase. Doesn't matter even if you are offering higher interest rate on savings. Banks are offering, even banks are going to offer higher interest rates on savings. Despite that, people are going to prefer cash savings. Why? Because everyone is fear of what? Uncertainty of recession. And in case of that uncertainty, I must have some money so that I can sustain myself. See the COVID times. In COVID times, cash in hand, or in other words, currency with public, is increased phenomenally. Our digital payments are increasing, and they are increasing with the phenomenal success rate. Phenomenal success rate. India is at third position while using the digital payment, right? Third position for India. So despite having large increase in what? Large increase in digital payment, in last 2 years, currency with the public is increased. People are having more and more cash. Why? People are worried about what? Uncertainty related to what? Uncertainty related to this COVID crisis. So same Keynes was saying that what you are assuming all savings is going to be converted into the investment, that is wrong. Why people are not going to convert their savings? First of all, normally they are not going to convert. They are going to save some money in the form of cash with themselves, right? And if economy is going to hit towards a recessionary cycle, despite banks are offering higher interest rate on deposits, people will not put their money in the form of investments. So capital formation is going to be severely impacted. So because these two factors you have not considered, what you thought that he's criticizing capital, sorry, this classical economist saving is not equal to investment, and what increase in the consumption and savings in this manner, rate of saving is less than rate of consumption. This is your perception. Both are wrong. And third thing, on the basis of this explanation, he said that it is not production which is going to put you out from the recessionary cycle. You have to focus on what? You have to focus on consumption. So anyhow, you have to focus on consumption. You have to focus on how to increase the investment, how to increase employment. That is why Keynes, John Maynard Keynes, in his book General Theory of Employment, Interest and Money. So money in terms of interest rates, he emphasized that banks are offering higher interest rates on deposit, but it is not going to work. Employment situation can be improved. Interest rates are going to be effective only when you will focus on what? Consumption. So rather than focusing on supply side, you have to focus on consumption or demand side. So Keynes has revolutionized the study of economics. Till then, John Maynard Keynes' study of economics was largely dominated by Say's law of market, and Say's law of market was focused on what? Focused on supply side. Supply can create its own demand, right? So supply side economist. But Keynes shifted the momentum in demand side. Demand side. So Keynes was demand side economist. Another thing he emphasized कि what you are assuming, whatever you are assuming this business cycle, that may be true and can work for one industry or particular business. Means uh, the classical economist theory maybe work laissez-faire can work for particular industry, but at large level, at country level, this theory is never going to work. So rather than focusing on single unit and giving the general perception, he took entire economy as an example. So rather than the micro part, he focused on the macro part, complete economic system. So that's why credit goes to Keynes. But Keynes has not coined this term. Keynes was not the person who coined this term macroeconomics and microeconomics. It was Ragnar Frisch. Ragnar Frisch, he divided the economy as a microeconomics and macroeconomics. But Keynes was always emphasized the macro part, and his emphasis on what? Supply side of the economy, sorry, demand side of the economics, whereas classical economists focus on supply side of the economics. Understood? I'll tell you now how it will come out of recession. Till then, here what I have explained, is it clear? So this is what Keynes explained regarding consumption, regarding savings, propensity. All this comes under the theory of what? His theory of consumption function. So he emphasized on the consumption. And for explaining the consumption, he explained what? He explained the theory of propensity. Though he was not first person to explain the propensity, it was based on utility principle, which was largely explained by Alfred Marshall. But he have this credit because he explained in the very well manner, right? So till then, here everything is clear. What is a consumption function? Who has given the consumption function? Consumption function was given by J.M. Keynes. And as per consumption function of J.M. Keynes, when income increases, consumption and saving both increases, right? Both increases. But as per Keynes, rate of savings is higher than rate of consumption because of his theory of propensity of consumption. Fine? Is it clear? Okay. So from here, we will continue in the next class. We will go further in the Keynesian function, and from there, we will also understand the money supply. Means what Keynes has explained, right? Keynes has explained very well. Then he told that this theory have to apply, right? Means demand side should be focused. So governments in US and Europe, they have implemented what Keynes has explained as a remedy. It was implemented and economy came out of recession. From 1932 onwards, US economy started coming out of the recession, and again economy start booming, and Keynes become a hero, and he is kind of the best economist in the world. But 1960s, especially by late 1960s, again US and European economies, US and European economies even after deploying all kind of the possible solution presented by Keynes, again economies were started hitting the recessionary cycle and they are not even able to come out of recession, even applying the Keynesian theory also. Right. So classical theory was also failed. Keynesian theory was also failed in 1960s and 70s. Then another theory of money supply came into the picture. Right. So consumption function will be continued tomorrow, and from consumption function we will switch to what? We will switch to money supply theory. Okay. So let's wind up today's session. We will continue from consumption function and we will switch to money supply function tomorrow. Okay. So thank you for today. We will meet tomorrow from here.